What's up, moviegoers? Hey, before we get started, I wanted to tell you about an exciting chance for you to see movies at the movie theater for $0. That's right, totally free. I'm talking about the Movie on the Mini giveaway. We here at the Minivan Movie Club, we're giving away a free $25 Fandango gift card to one of the first 100 subscribers of our YouTube channel. So all you have to do to be entered is go to our Minivan Movie Club channel on YouTube, subscribe to the page, and comment on one of our videos what your favorite movie is. It's just 2 simple steps, and you're entered to win the gift card. And if you want to improve your chances, you can follow us on Spotify and other social media platforms, and each one of those follows will result in another entry. This drawing will only include the first 100 subscribers to our page to celebrate those who bought into the Minivan Movie Club a little bit early. So enter today and have a chance to see a movie on the Mini. Enjoy the show. What do you think is the best movie snack?
Well, if we have to do a draft, a 1-1, so that's the best overall movie snack, 100% has to be popcorn. Popcorn, butter, it's an oldie, it's a classic, and it is tried and true. Unless your popcorn's expired, it's never bad.
There's no such thing as really bad popcorn. There's such a high floor. Like if you go to, it sits out there all day, and you're still like, yeah, I'll take a big bag. I'll pay $9 for that bag of popcorn.
You're like, oh, that's a good deal. That's a good deal.
Yeah, okay, so let's do this. Let's go 1 for 1. I'm going to have Siri flip a coin.
Uh-oh.
You call it.
Tails,
okay. If you win, you get to pick who gets the first pick. If I win, I get to pick.
So you asked me what I like the most, so you could pick popcorn.
Hey, Siri, flip a coin. It's heads. I'm going to go popcorn. There's no way to deny it. Popcorn's easily the best snack. They go together. It's just like birds of a feather. Popcorn is the best movie snack. That's why they sell it.
The second pick is going to be a Coke Icy.
Oh, a Coke Icy. That's a good one.
You get the Coke and you get the Icy. You put it together. It's a great snack.
That's a good one. So that's pretty high on my board. For the third overall pick, I'm going to take my personal favorite, pizza. I love pizza. So many places when we were kids, you couldn't get a pizza. Or if you got a pizza, it was like a nasty New York slice from some hot lamp. Now you can go to a Cut. You can go to a Studio Movie Grill. You can get a beautiful artisan pizza with your movie. That's high class.
That's something I didn't think about. And the nice thing about pizza, unlike, say, chips or nachos, you're not crunching the whole movie, just irritating.
But also, pizza has, like popcorn, pizza has an elite floor. Elite.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you go to your office party, and they have nasty cardboard skating rink pizza, left it out half the day, it's in the break room, you're still going to have a slice.
Oh, yeah, you'll still walk by.
You're like, hey, I have a slice.
Looking around, sneak one.
Me and my kids go to the trampoline park, that pizza is nasty. It's nasty, and every time we get a pizza, I'm like, I get a slice.
Well, it's like Chuck E. Cheese.
Easy.
You're like, oh, 2 free slices? I'll take it.
Easy. Whereas, like, if you have a bad burger, you're like, I don't want to finish this. If you have bad sushi, you can't even finish one bite. Yeah. Pizza is elite.
Pizza's the GOAT.
Pizza's great.
Take home GOAT. So then my next pick would be Reese's Pieces.
I didn't even put them on my list. That's such a mistake of mine.
Ooh.
I didn't have them on my draft board, but that's a good one. So I'll tell you this: my first first 4 picks on my big board were popcorn, fountain sodas, 3 pizza, 4 icy. But I did not think about combining them into the Coke Icy, which is the ultimate combination. So you, in your second pick, took my 2 and 4, which is strong. I'm going to come in here with my next pick, Sour Patch Kids.
Ooh.
It's got the tingly, got the gummies, got the sour, got the sweet. It just slaps. Sour Patch Kids.
Oh, yeah. It's always nice to leave the movie theater with a sore in your mouth from all the sour coming off because you ate the whole box.
I love that candy.
Oh, it's so good. If I've got to get one more, peanut M&Ms.
Oh, so that's literally the next on my board is M&Ms, peanuts too. Yeah, peanut M&Ms are the GOAT.
Candy's always a good go. I think all of us grew up going to the convenience store right before because at least I did because we were too poor to buy
literally
candy at the theater.
That's my next one is smuggled in food.
Oh, of course.
Like if there's it's kind of a weak sauce approach to it, but like when you can take your own stuff in, it feels so much better.
Yeah, it's like a weird dynamic now that I know the struggle that movie theaters are going through. That it's like I want to be cost efficient for me, but I also want to support you because I know that you're not making any
Look,
money
I
off
bought
the
your
movie ticket.
$12 beer. I'm going to
That's
bring
true.
in
That's
my
true.
Raisinets and my goobers.
The cost of beer, I'm sure per draft is probably like 50 cents for them, and they're making hand over fist. So it does kind of justify me smuggling in my own candy.
I will say this, a candy that I really struggled to not have on my list was Bunch of Crunch. I don't really like Crunch bars. The Rice Krispies are kind of slick, but Bunch of Crunch goes hard. It's like a movie candy.
I think that's a
Butterfinger
marketing
bites.
thing. Yeah.
That's like, it's like a movie thing. I'm like, give me a Bunch of Crunch. If it wasn't $13, I'd get it.
Well, I think that I think it's like something that's ingrained in us. Like even the popcorn with the commercials and the Coke commercials when you're at the movie, the fountain drinks. I think the crunch was like something that was like hammered home in the 80s and 90s. So in all of our brains, it's like, oh, I'm going to watch a movie. I don't ever eat this candy, but man, it looks really good in that blue box. Like, let me bring that in there with me. Oh, that'll be $7.50, sir.
So your movie snack draft, at the first overall pick, I took popcorn, second pizza, third Sour Patch Kids. Your picks, you took first Coke Icy, second Reese's Pieces, and third peanut M&Ms. Make sure if you're listening to this, comment and let me know who do you think won this. You think you got Team Popcorn Pizza Sour Patch or Coke Reese's Pieces peanut butter M&Ms? Peanut M&Ms.
Not peanut butter. They have those now.
Yeah, those are gross. They're not gross, but they're not.
It's not nearly.
It's
as
not
good.
an M&M.
Any variation after regular and then peanut, not very good.
I agree. Well, that's enough for that. Today we are talking about the Netflix comedy Murder Mystery 2, the sequel. Now, I know a lot of you are thinking, you're not going to do a whole show about Murder Mystery 2, are you guys? Well, we're not. Just like a good trip to the movies, we've smuggled some of our own goodies into this show, and that includes the movie breakdown, a talk about the state of streaming right now, and a really fun road trip to the Adam Sandler Hall of Fame as we drive down memory lane and rank some of the greatest films in the Adam Sandler collection. But for the "why are you talking about Murder Mystery 2" crowd, let me remind you that the original 2019 Netflix comedy crime caper Murder Mystery, it was reportedly watched by nearly 31 million households in its first 3 days on the platform, which was such an outrageous surprise for the streaming service that a sequel was seemingly inevitable. Well, that sequel is out. It has arrived, and it has been receiving some very mixed reviews. Some people say it is a breath of fresh air. It's really nice to see what things are doing, and others claim it is just the bane of existence, the bane of streaming content on streaming services. So in an age when theater attendance is down and streaming products reign, is this what movies have come to? Or is a tide change happening? Are we finally starting to see really good movies made from streaming services? The answers are next on the Minivan Movie Club. It's going to be a heck of a show, so buckle up.
Let's ride.
In today's culture, we are constantly inundated with the negative, and we're forced to talk about the things that we hate. So let's flip the script, and let's talk about the things that we love. We love TV and film. So join two dudes as we break down our favorite movies and how they relate to life. Welcome to the Minivan Movie Club. Let's go! Hello, I'm Brett Gray, hanging out in the minivan with my friend, the bearded boy wonder, Nick Whigham.
What's up, guys?
Welcome to the Minivan Movie Club. We will be your guides today as we talk about the newest Netflix movie, Murder Mystery 2.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be a good one. But before we get into that, I want to talk about some of our favorite segments, which is streaming suggestions. In the past weeks, we've done this a little bit where we've given you some ideas of streaming platforms out there, whether it be HBO Max, Peacock, Disney Plus, Netflix, whatever it is out there that you choose, Paramount Plus, whatever it is that you're using. An idea for you to go out and talk about this. I want to try naming this. Have you seen the book? Have you seen the book? Have you seen the movie, The Notebook?
I have, unfortunately.
How often do you watch it? Once a week, twice a week?
Yeah. I make sure that I get it yearly. It's
yearly?
an annual watch for me.
That seems pretty low for you. Those are rookie numbers. Well, there's a part in the movie where Noah says to, I'm blanking on her name, Rachel McAdams' character, pre-Alzheimer's and her forgetting him, says, what do you want? What do you want? It's not that simple. It's not that simple. The famous meme moment. I've seen it so many times on TikTok or Vine.
Of course, it's the perfect description of when you try to ask your significant other what they want to eat for dinner.
Or what they want to stream after dinner.
Or what they want to stream.
So I think what we should do is name this segment moving forward. It's not streaming suggestions. I think it should be super simple streaming suggestions. Because when Noah says, what do you want? She's like, it's not that simple. It is that simple. We're going to make it super simple for you. You got 2 or 3 recommendations from us each week. Every week, I promise you, we will bring you a suggestion. We'll tell you where to go.
What do you want? What do you want?
It's not that simple.
What do you want?
Here are your super simple streaming suggestions of the week.
My first streaming suggestion is Palm Springs on Hulu. It's a Hulu original starring Andy Samberg. It's a movie that I personally really enjoyed. My wife enjoyed. I didn't see it get a lot of love when it came out, I believe in 2020. It's a comedy with a wedding as the backdrop, and it's got a fun time travel twist, and they do it really cleverly. I highly recommend it if you just want to have a fun movie watching experience. Not too heady. It's not trying to be a social commentary or anything like that. Palm Springs on Hulu.
My streaming suggestion for the week is a all-time classic, the 1992 Quentin Tarantino Reservoir Dogs. It's an awesome movie, and in the age of movies where it seems like every week we're talking about a movie that's 3.5 years long, this movie is just 1 hour and 39 minutes. It's a fast one. It's a good one. It's got a lot of the early Quentin Tarantino style with action and gore, good soundtrack. If you haven't seen it, you got to check it out. It's on Netflix right now. Go watch Reservoir Dogs.
I actually recently watched this for the first time sometime in 2022. And you can tell that it's Quentin's first full-length film.
Yep.
There's the way that he cuts the movie, the scene cuts, but just like Quentin Tarantino fashion, classic Quentin Tarantino fashion, dialogue is the king of this movie, and it's awesome still. It still holds up very well. My second recommendation this week is a movie that I watched 2 weeks ago. It was kind of an Oscar darling, an award season darling, but it didn't actually win very many awards, and that is American Hustle. It's on Netflix. It's got a great cast. It's got Amy Adams, Christian Bale, Bradley Cooper. It's an American Hustle. It's a heist movie. Jennifer Lawrence. I highly recommend it. It's set in the 70s. It has a great feel to it. The ambiance of the movie is really like a great supporting cast member, and they utilize it really well.
My last super simple streaming suggestion for the week. I talked about this movie last week when we talked about John Wick Chapter 4. Go out on HBO Max and check out Mad Max Fury Road. It is just a roar of a movie. It starts going and it just goes. If you've got a sound bar or a room where you can really turn up the sound, just let it blare and have some fun. It's got Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron in it, directed by George Miller. It's just a movie that understands what movies are. It's fun, it's loud, it's crazy. The imagery is really incredible. Last week, I really wanted John Wick Chapter 4 to be this movie again, just in a different style. I give it its props. Mad Max Fury Road. If you haven't seen it, go check it out.
That is one of my favorite theater going experiences, was watching that movie, just because it was a complete surprise to me. I didn't know what to expect.
I just didn't expect it to be that good. It's a movie that deserves to be seen in theaters, but I also think the reason I recommend it as a streaming suggestion is there's a lot of people that probably didn't watch that movie that, it's a Mad Max movie. I don't care about like apocalypse and zombie movies. That's not my scene. But then you watch, you're like, oh, this is actually way cooler than that, and it's just epic. It's done. And then I also mention it because there's probably plenty of people that loved it and didn't realize that it's on HBO Max right now. They've got an HBO Max account. Go watch it right now.
And we laugh at my brother a lot, but he's like, that's so dumb. He's shooting fire out of his guitar. Gas is a commodity. Like, they're just wasting it here. I'm like, dude. Oh man, that's such a good movie. I actually probably am gonna go rewatch that. Actually.
Go watch it. They're good movies. So, Palm Springs on Hulu,
American Hustle on Netflix.
Reservoir Dogs on Netflix, and Mad Max Fury Road on HBO Max. Check out those super simple streaming suggestions this week, and we'll have some more for you next. Now let's talk a little bit of a preview of the month ahead. It's a new month. Nick, what are you excited we're going to talk about this month?
I'm very excited for the whole month, but in particular, I have really been getting excited for Super Mario Brothers.
Oh, yeah?
I know that we talked a couple of episodes ago, and it wasn't necessarily something that you're super excited about, but I've seen a few different trailers. My son has gotten really excited. He's like, Daddy, I want to see Mario. So I'm excited to watch this movie, and hopefully I enjoy it, and it's something I can watch with him relatively soon.
I can feel you. You know my process. I like to see trailers in the theater, so I avoid trailers like they're the plague. I don't watch multiple versions of them. I just watch the one, and I hope that I see it in theaters. And I saw the very first teaser trailer for this, and then I was like, all right, I'm in. And then I started seeing the cast, and I've heard just from being on Twitter and things like that, different voices. And so I'm trying my best to go in there with the eternal optimism that I always have. But it's really hard for me to think about Super Mario Brothers when I know that the week following that, we're talking about what is possibly one of my favorite shows of all time, coming to this penultimate moment in a movie in Seven Kings Must Die.
I'm just excited to see Uhtred again.
Uhtred, son of Uhtred.
You scared me last month. You gave the date and you said, did this movie come out? And I was frantic. I was like searching my phone. I'm like, did I go a whole weekend and not watch this movie since it was released? Because I promise you that's going to be one that if it drops on April 19th, is that a Friday? If it drops
9th.
On Friday, you're probably going to text me and I'll have watched it like right after midnight. So.
Yeah, so our episode will drop on April 19th. We're going to talk about, we're talking about Murder Mystery 2 today. Next week, we'll drop an episode on Super Mario Brothers, which drops this weekend. The following weekend, April 17th, April 16th? No, I guess April 16th, probably. The following week, The Last Kingdom, Seven Kings Must Die.
It comes out on April 14th.
Drops on Netflix. And then, I'm saying this now so that everyone can go ahead and do it. Go watch the show on Netflix. There's 5 awesome seasons. If you like Game of Thrones, this is not the same production value, but it's got way more story, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's way more streamlined. It's quick.
Moves.
It jumps. So if Game of Thrones, if the dialogue was something that always kind of was a problem for you, you thought some slow episodes, you don't really get that with this show. It is action-packed from start to finish.
It's great. And we're not going to talk about it a whole lot because we'll say that for the episode, but go ahead and start watching that right now. You have 2 weeks to watch 5 seasons of material so that you can watch this one movie. And if you're like me, always looking for streaming suggestions and things like that, this is an easy one. And then the following week after that, we've got the movie Air.
Michael Jordan, baby.
The GOAT. That's the real GOAT. We're talking about popcorn and pizza.
That's actually a GOAT. Yeah.
Popcorn, pizza, Michael Jordan.
The ceiling
That's
is
my
the
movie
roof.
snack.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one. Ben Affleck directing. He's obviously had several hits so far with his directing career. Always a consistent actor on screen. Matt Damon. It looks to be a very entertaining film.
The month is going to be a good month. We're excited for all of those who are in the Minivan Movie Club that are going to be joining us this month. And with that, let's go ahead and move into this episode's Backseat Breakdown. Murder Mystery 2, which is Netflix's sequel to the 2019 Adam Sandler and Jennifer Aniston comedy Murder Mystery, has us once again meeting with Sandler and Aniston returning as the husband and wife, Nick and Audrey Spitz, the 2 New Yorkers who in the previous film wound up in the middle of a wealthy European family bloodbath as the inheritance and the hijinks attempted to totally derail their family vacation, and now it's kind of the same. Now they've formed their own not very successful private investigation firm, and they're nearly broke. So when they're invited to their friend's wedding, the gazillionaire pal Vikram, and he's one of the very few survivors of the first movie. They just pounce at this opportunity. So they arrive at the private tropical island where the wedding is set to take place, and they've got gift boxes and bags and cheese and elegant, all kinds of stuff. And they go to the wedding only to witness a murder and the alarming kidnapping of their friend Vic, who was just entering his wedding on the back of an elephant. So this turn of events goes nuts, and all the guests are on edge to figure out who might have been the mastermind behind such a dastardly crime. Could it be the fiancé? Could it be the ex-girlfriend? How about the suave Francisco, Vic's equally rich business partner? Or what about Vic's humble sister, Syra? Everyone could be a possible suspect, and it's at this point that into the nest of possibilities steps the smooth, hotshot detective and former MI6 hostage negotiator Connor Miller, played by the one and only Mark Strong, who is very quick to point out that Nick and Audrey, they should equally be considered suspects because of their possible motives at play. And so no one is off the table for the kidnapping of Vic, and this eventually leads Nick and Audrey and the entire core gang of suspects to Paris. There, Detective Miller works with Nick and Audrey to negotiate this very measly small sum of $70 million to
That's
be
it.
just a very small ransom for Vic. And so Nick and Audrey are kidnapped in a van where they end up killing all these people in the van. It's a hilarious bloodbath. And in this montage, all the perpetrators are dead. Detective Miller gets killed when his car is bombed. But, plot twist, the Countess, the ex-girlfriend, and her weaselly laughing pal, they steal the $70 million. And while they're attempting to frame Nick and Audrey, they also get killed. So Nick and Audrey have got to save Vic. They keep the money safe. They return to the Eiffel Tower to solve the whodunit. They're talking to the other core suspects, and as the gang of characters meet in the Eiffel Tower, they are met by a surprise phase. Dun, dun, dun. Surprise! Miller is not dead. He's back. He faked his death to remove the attention, and now he's back to kill them all and steal the money. But this isn't Miller's movie. This is Nick and Audrey's movie. So, of course, they thwart him and his goons. They save the Eiffel Tower. They save the money. They save Vikram. But there's still one lingering question at the end of the movie. Who hired Miller to abduct Vikram? Was it the fiancée? She a gold digger? It wasn't the ex-girlfriend. She's dead. It must be Francisco, the suave, greedy business partner. Nope, it was Syra, the sister. She was the jealous sister. And Vikram rewards the couple for saving his life with $10 million in a bag made of dinosaur leather, which, upon a helicopter ride home, is stolen, setting us up for Murder Mystery 3. Fade to black. What was your immediate thoughts of the movie?
I immediately did not like this movie very much.
You didn't like it?
So I thought it was okay. It's only an hour and a half long. It's not a big commitment. I think that the performance by Adam Sandler and Jennifer Aniston is a bit tired here. What worked so well in the first one, their banter, their silliness, kind of towards the end of this movie, I was really over it. I was sick of kind of seeing, it was almost like they were kind of sick of being there too. It seems like a movie, I know they shot it in Paris, that was just basically an excuse for them to use Netflix money to go on a vacation to Paris, which is something that Adam Sandler's been accused of before, essentially just like bringing all of his friends on a trip somewhere, filming a movie around it, and then releasing it. It's not, for me, it doesn't capture the magic of the first one. Maybe it's because the first one was a surprise. You have higher expectations for the sequel. I wouldn't be surprised if this is kind of a commercial failure for Netflix, and we don't see a third one. And that'll just be interesting to see what they report in the next few weeks with this movie.
So, without giving away your ranking, sounds like it was kind of a dud to you.
It was kind of a dud.
Well, let me ask you this. When you went into the movie, did you have any big expectations? Had you seen the first one and been really surprised? was there? What was your mindset going into this movie?
So I didn't set the bar too high because it is Adam Sandler, and I feel like, especially over the last 15 years, he always has one or two movies that pop up that kind of surprise you and they're funny, but everything else you pretty much know what you're going to get. So I wasn't expecting like some sort of revolutionary comedy out of this. There just wasn't a lot of things that worked for me. I thought that none of the suspects were particularly interesting. None of them, they were all basically watered down stereotypes of murder mystery characters. You've got the bodyguard, you've got the sister, you've got the ex, you've got the current fiance, you've got the sleazy, money hungry board member. They were all pretty much characters that we've seen before and characters that I won't think about again, with the exception of the van fight scene. I legitimately laughed several times during that. I thought that was amazingly shot and choreographed, and it was so funny.
Wasn't it weird seeing Adam Sandler as like an action hero? Like certain moments where like this untucked bearded schlub, like untucked shirt bearded schlub is like all of a sudden Jason Bourne, John Wicking it in the Paris streets.
Yeah, that's one of the things that didn't work for me. I feel like the first movie did it so well, where like everybody they killed they beat was completely an accident, and it made it really like slapsticky funny. And in this, the van scene does that, where like Jennifer Aniston's killing people on accident, and he's telling her she's now an axe murderer and those things, and that's really funny. But then watching him like fight soldiers on the Eiffel Tower, I'm like, come on, like. Really, like this guy is the
he read the whole book,
Jason,
man.
Jason
he read the whole
Bourne.
book.
Well, the book sucked. They both
He read chapters 1 through 16. He's got
They
it.
said it sucked though, so they couldn't have learned much from it.
I had this kind of weird thought. I don't know if you had it, of like John Wick Chapter 4 takes place in Paris. This movie takes place in Paris, and one of the problems that I had mentioned last week in John Wick 4 was I can only go with the suspension of disbelief for so long. When you're driving in a circle and there's all this stuff going on, eventually someone stops or the police show up. There's got to be some ability to like the real world has to police this. But then it occurred to me, if this happens in the same universe on the same day, the Paris police force, the 911 chatter, the radio signals must be going off the roof. There's a guy trying to bomb the Eiffel Tower. There's every other gang in all of Paris is trying to kill this other dude. There's a helicopter explode in the river. This is a busy day in Paris.
Yeah, they're like, we got 217 dead bodies on this street. We're going to have to get to the Eiffel Tower later. So actually, though, maybe that's the vehicle that kept driving around in circles for John Wick to like reload his gun every time.
Yeah. Maybe that's one of the reasons. Maybe it was Jennifer Aniston's character, Audrey, the kind of the unsuspecting sidekick of John Wick.
That's exactly what
the
John
crossover
needed.
film we didn't know we needed. Audrey Spitz and John Wick.
So to me, though, it's kind of in the same vein, a little bit lazier, because I think We Have a Ghost was a little more original of what it was trying to do. But it still feels kind of, unfortunately, like content vomit from a streaming service. You had a surprise success, and I don't know if it ever really needed a sequel, but they're like, oh, we've got to make a sequel. We've got to, and every studio is guilty of it. When one movie does commercially really well, they greenlit a sequel immediately, regardless of what the script would be, regardless of, who's writing and directing. And unfortunately, most of the time you get a sequel like this where particularly comedy has this problem, but other movies usually do too. You can't capture lightning in a bottle two times typically with something like this. And I think that Murder Mystery 2 is the prime example of what that results in.
So last week was the first time that we disagreed on a movie.
So you love this?
I thought it was awesome.
That's hilarious.
I thought it was fun.
So that's I know we're going to talk about Adam Sandler as a whole, but that's the thing about his movies that's why I always watch them, because no matter what a general consensus is on a movie, he has the ability, for whatever reason, like there's always a random movie of his that just speaks to a particular individual, and it's like a guilty pleasure movie.
Well, so I would defer a little bit on the idea of this being a guilty pleasure. Yes, he has some of those movies that are just speak to you, and we'll talk about that a little bit, but I think maybe a bit of a meta conversation. Let's also acknowledge this is not an Oscar movie.
No.
This is not a Banshees of Inisherin where I watched that movie and was so surprised, so blown out of the water. Like, wow, this is a great movie. This is a fantastic film. This movie, Murder Mystery 2, it's just a film. I really enjoyed watching. I had a good time. I think some of my initial thoughts are I thought that the bickering is very constant and it's good natured. I like that. And they start immediately. They pick up exactly where they left off. And because it's only an hour and a half, there's really no time for you to think about what doesn't work or what isn't working. And each one of these characters and the actors, they know their boundaries. And it really feels like a married couple. I watched this with my wife. My wife's kind of laughing at it, pointing out things that I do, pointing out things that she does. She's kind of laughing at herself. So it worked really well. And I thought in many more ways, this movie's comedy delivered far more than Murder Mystery did, the original. I think the comedy outside of the mystery hit so much better. There are so many more, in my opinion, laugh out loud moments because you've got Adam Sandler in his full untucked shirt, bearded schlub, loser, average Joe.
How he dresses every
that's
day.
Just who Adam Sandler is. And then you've got Jennifer Aniston looking like she's been wrapped in bubble wrap since 1999. You're like, man, what? My wife's Googling, how old is Jennifer Aniston? What is her age? So what's her skincare routine? It's a movie where you can just kind of watch and enjoy it. And I think this movie does something really interesting that other Adam Sandler movies on Netflix, because this is a partnership with Happy Madison and Netflix, it does what other movies have tried to do. And this movie really runs on vibes, not plot. Because the mystery, like you mentioned, it's a little weak, but to me, that's not a deficiency. Neither the murder nor the mystery in Murder Mystery 2 really has any note, but the film commits in other ways. And I think one of the ways is through a lot of the throwaway comedy bits because they actually land this time around. There's so many throwaway lines, which historically in cult classic movies like Tommy Boy or Black Sheep, a lot of other Adam Sandler movies, they have these little throwaway moments that are just instant classics. They're really dumb little gags, such as in this movie, Nick's obsession with the cheese that they served at the wedding. The cheese has a hold of me. That's a funny line. Everyone's had a snack. That's that gets me. And so I really liked that. I liked the stupid retractive stadium roof that opens on their island villa. It's not really good CGI, but it's a funny gag. There's all kinds of gags in here where something grisly or funny happens, like with the axe stuck in the random goon's head as he's driving, and that's
so hard.
giggling around like it's a stick.
He's still alive. He's still alive.
Look, I said they were dumb gags. It's stupid. It shouldn't work, but it does. And I think the director, Jeremy Gerlich, he brings a certain visual elegance to the movie that the other movie really lacked when it tried to do those bits. And so I think that's one of the really things that stands out to me. So, he seems to have an eye for this physical comedy. Those things land, and I think this movie has a real sense of pace. Really, it just moves. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It doesn't need you to be involved for too long. And so I think the fact that it moves really quick, literally when they're on the Eiffel Tower and they're fighting, I'm realizing just because I've watched so many movies, this is the final act. This is the big deal. And I was like, I feel like I started watching this 45 minutes ago. It is just moving. And at only 1.5 hours, I think that really serves the movie and the audience well because you really don't ever have a chance to think really deeply about the movie's shortcomings or the oversimplifications that when I watched John Wick 4, it was 3 hours. I had so much time in slow moments to really think and reflect and gather myself. I think this movie just let's get on the gas, let's get going. We've got Adam Sandler and Jennifer Aniston as our headliners for this movie. Let's rock and roll and let's have some fun. And I think it is successful in doing that.
So I didn't go into this movie thinking, this is going to be Glass Onion. There's going to be just this mind-blowing mystery to solve. I knew it was Murder Mystery 2, so I wasn't expecting, I didn't need it to give me any groundbreaking plot twist to be this is who really done it. And comedy is so subjective. What Brett said worked for him, a lot of it just didn't work for me. There were a few banter lines that I found funny, particularly when the agent's trying to give the gun to Adam Sandler, and his wife is telling the agent that Adam Sandler can't shoot, and then he responds with, "All right, next time we're in front of a supermodel, I'm going to tell her you wear Spanx." And I just thought that was hilarious, because she's like, "What?" Like, oh, come on now. But for the most part, a lot of the scenes didn't really land for me. I thought that the action, especially on the Eiffel Tower, wasn't necessary. But that's the thing with Adam Sandler, is he's not going to make a movie that everybody's going to universally love. Generally, outside of, for every Grown-Ups, you have Grown-Ups 2. For every murder mystery, you have Murder Mystery 2, in my opinion. That's something that worked for you. It didn't work for me.
Okay. So I think this leads to a really interesting conversation. You and I have been rating movies now. This is our sixth episode. Sixth episode in the Minivan Movie Club. Thank you, all three of you that have been watching faithfully the entire time. But
Mom.
it's worth having the discussion of, when you're looking at a movie, what is important to you? Because in the grand scheme of things, you and I can both agree this is not a movie that at the end of the year we're both going to be talking about as well. This is one of the 20 best movies I watched this year. It's a movie that we watched. You don't think to yourself like, oh my gosh, I just wasted an hour and a half. You didn't invest much, so you didn't lose much.
I didn't like the movie, and I didn't feel like, oh, I wasted an hour and a half of my life. I think that that's one of the things that it does really well, and we've been hard on a lot of movies for being too long, like the director's not reining it in to give you a concise story. So that was something I really appreciated. Even though it wasn't my favorite movie, I still watched it, and like, I was like, okay, like I watched that. But like a lot of Netflix movies and Netflix original movies, I'm probably never going to watch that movie again. I'll watch Murder Mystery 1 at some point. And so that gets into one of the key factors when we're rating a movie is rewatchability. So with Top Gun Maverick, instantly you wanted to go see that again in theaters. I watched it several times on demand since it's been on demand. You instantly, even once you finish the movie, you're like, man, I want to watch that movie again. I want to, and the movies that you do that with, and then you still get the same level or even more emotion after, that's one of the factors in how we rate a movie.
Yeah, when you say rewatchability, I think of this timelessness quality. How is this movie going to age? What are the core themes? How can I watch this? Like, literally, the most important factor to my personal top 10 movies, this is not like what I think other people would agree are the top 10 movies of all time, but the top 10 movies to Brett of all time. Rewatchability is like the thing. Can I watch this movie over and over and over again and not get over it? So I totally agree with you.
And that doesn't necessarily mean like movies from your childhood that you watched a lot and then you can like continue to rewatch. I recently rewatched Ninja Turtles 2 from 1991. I used to watch that movie all the time as a kid. It's not a good movie. It's not in my top 10, but I still enjoyed it.
But you burned out that orange VHS.
I did, and I watched it. I actually finished it today, and I still was like, man, this is a fun movie. Like, I love this movie. I can look at it now and see all the issues that it had and that an adult watching it for the first time probably wouldn't enjoy, but I have that nostalgia. But that's not the same as when we're rating a movie now and its rewatchability. It's not because it's something we necessarily grew up with. It's because it has themes that resonate with us. It has great dialogue. It has all these reasons to bring us back. The second thing I really look at is what was the director's intent when he's making this movie. Murder Mystery 2, for example, as we're going to rate it. Even if I love the movie and I gave it a high grade, if I say this movie is an 8 out of 10, I don't think that it's the same overall. Like, it's like you put it in a B category, but if you're tiering the B category, it's still going to be at a different level than another movie you may give an 8, such as, I forget what movie I've given an 8 so far, but even if it has the same rating as Everything Everywhere All at Once for me, it's not the same movie experience. But for what the director was trying to achieve for the category for comedy, it ranks as an 8 for what they were trying to deliver.
Yeah, I think that directorial vision and the approach that they take in a movie, you look at directors of very different styles, like Christopher Nolan and Quentin Tarantino. When you watch those movies, you can see their handprints all over it. It is crafted, the sound, the score, the visuals, the acting. It's all just different when you watch a movie that has great directorial vision. And you even see other movies like Birdman or Gravity. They are so touched by their director. It is indelibly tied to that director. If you switch directors, the movie would be different. If you switch actors, the movie wouldn't be that different because the director had this specific vision. So I definitely agree. What are some of the other areas that you think of as it relates to how you're dissecting a film and maybe using that meta message to look at Murder Mystery 2?
So the thing that I said worked for me, and another big factor is the pacing of the movie. Do you feel at moments? I always use the idea of at any point in this movie was I checking my watch to see like, all right, I know the runtime, like how close are we getting to the end? Like I'm ready to wrap this up. And so, like you said, with Murder Mystery, it was never really that opportunity because it was an hour and a half. And I really appreciate that the director knew this is Murder Mystery 2. This isn't Inception. I don't need to make a 3-hour movie out of this. And so that is one of the factors as I'm doing my rating that'll be in favor of this movie.
Well, when you're watching a movie like The Dark Knight and Heath Ledger burns all the money, the Joker slides on the bucket of cash, like, oh my gosh, we're an hour and a half into this thing. We got a lot more to go.
Yeah, we got a whole nother hour.
This is amazing. The pacing there, even though it's a longer movie, the pacing is done well so that you're not thinking about it. Vice versa, I think here something that's done really well is the director knows, hey, this is what we're here to do. Let's go on a ride. Let's not do a whole lot of small, short moments. We're not here for some very payoff, deliverable, emotional arc. Let's just give people what we want. Let's give them a fun movie. Let's put in some jokes and let's keep going. So I think that's done well. And another thing that I think is important is kind of good moments. And when I say good moments, I'm talking about are like quotes, scenes, Easter eggs, jokes, music, maybe specific images or specific stills where you feel like, oh, that was really clever. That was really interesting. I'd never seen that before. Something that's just kind of in all memorable, that kind of makes the movie unique. And some people might tie that to some of its like timelessness or some of its production value, but I really think it speaks to, it should be in its own kind of like arced out category.
Particularly with comedy movies, like what are punchlines that are going to resonate, that you're going to bring into your everyday vocabulary? So with Adam Sandler, who we're talking about with Murder Mystery 2, The Longest Yard is one of my most quoted movies of all time. And it's not even so much about the greatness of the film. It's just there's so many lines, especially growing up playing sports. So anytime anybody drops a pass or drops a ball, it's like, oh, I shouldn't have had so much of that popcorn before the game. Or when a group of guys, when we're all laughing with each other and something good happens, it's like group hug in the showers tonight. So you have those lines that kind of permeate to everyday culture. Several Adam Sandler films have that. I don't know that Murder Mystery 2 provided any of those kind of moments for me.
And I think I would disagree a little bit. I think the jokes are really funny, and I think it lends itself to some of the timelessness, i.e. when you watch a movie like Dumb and Dumber, it's a stupid movie, but the jokes slap.
Well, that's what I'm saying,
timeless.
though. It culturally will still permeate.
Yep.
I don't know that Murder Mystery, while Dumb and Dumber, they execute it really well, and it still holds up, in my opinion. I don't think that this is executed to the degree where I'm going to be saying a line from this movie 5 years from now, 10 years from now.
Now, I'm not in any way trying to compare this to Dumb and Dumber. I'm just using that as a reference,
especially as like a
example.
Comedy. Like what makes a good comedy?
It's nice when directors are sensitive to like taking the movie out of time. If you use other current events or other types of settings, it really puts it at a certain point in time that we can reference it. So when you watch it in 5 years from now, it doesn't age well. I think this movie sits somewhere in that category of, there's a lot of Adam Sandler movies. There's 45 movies. This is the 45th Adam Sandler movie. So I think it fits somewhere in that pantheon. Not quite the greats, but this is not a bad movie. But I think where this really struggles is what to me is the most important aspect of an all-time good movie, which is story. There has to be a real story. So there's a lot of good movies out there, but there's not a lot of great movies. And great movies always have a cool story. There's a unique story, and sometimes that story can be incredibly simple, like The Banshees of Inisherin, where we talked about it. It's literally just two friends, one saying, I don't want to be your friend anymore. That's the whole story. But the way and the beats in which they put that story and you reveal it, sometimes stories are really good because they're told in nonlinear fashions. Sometimes we have some dramatic irony. There's so many different levers that a director or a writer can pull on when they're writing a good story. I think the biggest challenge for this movie, by comparison to other good movies, is there really isn't a story. It's really what I think is really good gags, good jokes, good practical effects, good pacing, wrapped around this straw man. And that, to me, is where the movie really falls short.
Yeah, there's not a lot of weight to it, which you don't necessarily need with Adam Sandler's, but just a little bit more would have been something that I think grounds you into the story better.
Well, you've mentioned this movie already on the show, when we talked about We Have a Ghost. We Have a Ghost had a really unique premise of a story, and there were really unique moments, but we both talked about how we wish they would have just tweaked a few things to the story and made it that much better. That would have maybe given it a better score than it really is. This movie, I think they just said, look, we don't need to do a whole complicated story. We're going to do it this way. This is the way it's going to be done, and let's move on. So while those two movies are different films, they should be looked at, they're not apples to apples.
They're just made by the same
Yep.
company.
So that leads me to a question. You mentioned this is a Netflix movie. It's just another Netflix movie. Having seen it, would you have paid a movie ticket price for you to see this movie?
Probably yes, because I paid to see Jack and Jill. I watch Adam Sandler.
You admitted
movies.
to that on camera?
This is going down for all of history. I actually generally really like Adam Sandler just because it's such a convenient way. It's nostalgic. His humor generally, you know what you're going to get from him. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But with him, because it can be so comfortable and so easy, his movies, I'm willing to sacrifice to watch the bad ones because I know that there will be one that I watch and I just really enjoy.
So I mentioned to you when we were kind of talking about getting ready for the show that there's a lot of kind of mixed reviews on this. And it's funny that you and I seem to stand on kind of opposite ends of the spectrum as well. Like Time Magazine released an article this past weekend that is titled Murder Mystery 2 Begs the Question, will we just stream anything now? And then Vulture.com released a separate movie review titled How Dare Murder Mystery 2 Be Any Good? Given your love of movies, I'm curious, what do you think of the state of streaming is? And how do you think this movie speaks to that? How does it fit in the mix?
So before I get into that, I want to ask you, would you have paid a movie ticket to see this movie?
Blind, I don't know if I would have paid for a movie ticket. If my wife twisted my hand, I would yeah, okay, we'll go. But after having seen it, I think it's a great movie. I don't think that this is a movie that I think this is a movie that you watch and you're like, oh, that was really fun. There's plenty of movies I've seen in theaters where I'm like, I wish I wouldn't have seen that. That was a waste of my time. Especially now that I've got kids. An hour and a half movie means I can go eat, watch the movie, and be home within 3 hours. That's not as much of a babysitter or getting mom to watch the kids. So I think it's a fun movie. I really enjoyed it. I think it's funny and goofy in ways that are really enjoyable. So do I think that this is a movie that's going to be remembered forever as great? No. But do I think that there are going to be plenty of people that watch this movie at home on Netflix while they're folding laundry and find themselves saying wow, that was pretty good? Or are they going to be, doing some task at the house, put this on, and then find themselves actually glued to the screen watching it? Yeah, it's super short. It's really good. I've seen so many seasons of a show that I'm like, I don't really like this. Well, once you get past season 3, it gets really good. I'm like, what? I don't have that much time to just watch 3 seasons of television.
Can you watch 25 hours of a show until it gets good, Brett? Come on.
No, I know. I'm a moron. But this show, I think, takes it to the max of let's just deliver. Let's do that. And I think that's where it gets to an interesting conversation point of Netflix has the formula down for television shows and creating content that is engaging in the streaming environment. Their movies have somewhat struggled. I think of this as a step in the right direction for them, because other movies, I'm just left really unsatisfied. I'm like, oh, it had moments, and it just...
So I think Netflix has done a really good job with the teen and like rom-com demographic. I know my wife has watched a ton of their original movies, teen romance type movies, and I know that that's really popular for them, and it's been something that they've had a lot of success with. You see like The Kissing Booth, or like some of those other kind of movies that they become very trendy. You see people talking about it a lot online. So I think that that's an audience that they've really captured. And then you move into their action, and they have like Hemsworth with Extraction, Triple Frontier. They've been able to get a lot of big stars on board for action movies. Something they've struggled with, that, to be fair, a lot of studios have struggled with, is like their superhero sci-fi drama. They had like Power with Jamie Foxx, which I watched and I enjoyed, but I know wasn't as much of a success as they had hoped it would be. Or Bright with Will Smith wasn't nearly as popular as they had hoped it would be. I think they're working on a sequel, but it took some time.
I liked Bright. I know it was weird, but I like Edgerton. I like Edgerton. What is his name?
The guy from
the Orc.
Yeah, the Orc guy. I
liked him, and I thought Will Smith was good. I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, I like the movie. I just know originally when it came out, it didn't release as big as they wanted, and then I think later it was one of those movies that kind of found like a second life, and people got into it, and I watched it on the later end, and I enjoyed it. So I know that they've struggled a little bit with that realm, but then you have like the Adam Project, which I really enjoyed. So Netflix is doing a good job, I think, of making a diverse. They basically just like threw all their chips out onto the table and like went in every direction with every type of movie, and are really trying to bring in some original content that people enjoy, because all of the original distributors are starting to get their own platforms. And so where they'll struggle is, I think, getting new release movies from these bigger studios that are tied to a original streaming service, just because you can only watch so many of these types of movies over and over and not have like your A-list go to. The easy remark would be like your Office. Like you can only watch so much stuff and not have The Office to go to and be like, oh, I want to keep paying $15 a month for Netflix.
Yeah, no, it's very telling that Netflix, when it first was launched, they had these original shows that just killed. And obviously, most notably today is Stranger Things. But there were some incredible Netflix series that were created, like The House of Cards. It was just riveting drama. It was so good. Everyone loved it until the big controversy. But they've figured out the formula for really good television. Typically, when I see that little Netflix logo on a movie, I start to think of like, it's probably not that good. I'm not gonna enjoy that, so I'm not gonna prioritize it. Whereas you look over at HBO Max, Peacock, Paramount Plus, they've sometimes got movies that are either in theaters or just left theaters. So it's super easy to get into those movies knowing, they got a big theatrical release. But I think this year with All Quiet on the Western Front, which is a Netflix movie, but really outsourced by Netflix, it's just really produced by them. I've seen some Netflix movies take a step in the right direction. But you mentioned a really interesting term that I was reading about. What do you think of the streaming second life?
So I know it's something that we've seen a lot of TV shows enjoy, with The Office and Friends. All of those original actors talk about, now they're teenagers are watching these shows. And as you spoke to timelessness, I think more of these movies that aren't connected to very trendy topics will be able to resonate better, because you even had 2 weeks ago, Friends, Jennifer Aniston was coming out talking about how now kids are starting to find it offensive, which that's a whole different discussion. But those those jokes, a lot of them, and especially The Office too, you watch and you're like, oh, that could never be made now. So it'll be interesting to see how things edit themselves so that they can have that longevity. But that is the benefit of the streaming service, especially with their own content, is eventually people get bored and they search out new things. And social media provides a way for people to talk about that and then kind of breathe a new life into a show or a movie such as Bright.
Interesting. Okay, so let's pivot the show a little bit. We've talked a little bit about our vision for how we like to dissect movies. We've talked about Murder Mystery 2, a little bit about the state of streaming. Let's take a walk with me as we drive the van into the Hall of Sandler, the Adam Sandler Hall of Fame. And we all know Adam Sandler, the iconic comedian. He's got these ties to a lot of incredible laughter, a lot of great movies. Fun fact, Sandler's first credited role was from The Cosby Show.
I did not know that.
He was friends with Theo. So he played a character named Smitty. But he's done stand-up. He's been on SNL. He's produced movies. He's starred in movies. So many iconic characters that he's been a part of, whether you like Billy Madison, The Wedding Singer, Happy Gilmore, just to name a few. But it hasn't always been golden sidewalks and silver spoons. There's a lot of clunkers in there.
There is a lot.
There's some bad ones. And several of Sandler's movies, whether they're comedies or dramas, a comedy like Jack and Jill or Bedtime Stories, they've been just absolutely atrocious. Just god-awful. And that's resulted in so many Golden Raspberry Awards and 37 Raspberry Award nominations. It's more than any actor in the world except Sylvester Stallone. However, the one thing that Sandler does have kind of over someone like Stallone is that he's also started to receive a lot of critical acclaim for some of his leading roles in like comedy drama films, including the Paul Thomas Anderson film Punch Drunk Love, but more recently in Uncut Gems and Hustle. So he's getting a little bit out of his lane in comedy, and that's by no means an accident. It's on purpose. But we're not a place to hand out Lifetime Achievement Awards. The Mark Twain Association, they can do that. But I do think it's worth having a conversation. Like, what are the best Adam Sandler movies of all time? In the Hall of Fame, you see Adam Sandler's absolutely recognizable Average Joe bust. If there are 5 little clips beneath it that are the movie posters or little clips of the movie, what are the 5 movies you're putting on that plaque?
So, number 1, Billy Madison. Number 2, Happy Gilmore. Those, I think, are his like golden goose, still culturally relevant, almost 30 years later after both of those films, still talked about, still quoted. For me, then it has to go Mr. Deeds. I know that it's not everybody's, but that's kind of my guilty pleasure Adam Sandler. Anytime I see it on the TV, I leave it on and enjoy it. Then The Longest Yard, as I said, I quote all the time. It's a big one up there. And then 50 First Dates.
Okay, interesting. What are, just off the top of your head, was there any honorable mentions or this one was really close?
So the first Grown Ups, I saw that in theaters. I was surprised. I thought it was a good ensemble cast. All the jokes really hit for me. That's My Boy is also another one that I really enjoyed, but I know not a lot of people did.
That's a shitty movie. It's a crap movie. That's
how
My Boy is such a bad movie.
How you feel about that is how I feel about Murder Mystery 2. I'll leave it there. And I think probably my guiltiest pleasure, and one that is kind of all over the map review-wise, is Hubie Halloween. I think that if Netflix really invested in this almost like the hallmark of Halloween movies and did something like that, I think they could have a lot of success with that.
100% agree.
Hubie is essentially a Hallmark movie, but for Halloween, and it's for me, it slapped. It was perfect. It was goofy. It was campy, and it's very rewatchable.
Well, that's a example of someone just knowing exactly the demo that they're trying to hit, and that campiness really, really works. So that's interesting. I agree with you on a lot of those movies in general. I think some of the worst movies that he's ever made, Jack and Jill, like both those characters suck. They're unlikable.
Jack and Jill.
It's a tough movie to watch. I love Adam Sandler movies. I can honestly say of the 45 movies that he's made, I've seen all 45 of them. I really enjoy him. And I think there's something likable about him in the same way that like The Rock has this charisma about like his action movies. You're just going to see the Adam Sandler movie. Why not? Just give it a shot. Odds are there's going to be a couple jokes in there. You'll enjoy it. It is what it is. But he's got some stinkers like The Ridiculous Six. It's just uninspired. It's boring. It doesn't even seem like he showed up to like be in it. He's just quiet the whole time. It's not an Adam Sandler movie. It sucks. And it's just 2 hours long. So if you see that on Netflix, don't waste your time. It sucks. You got Grown Ups too. I think that sucks.
I disagree.
There's Pixels that sucks. I think That's My Boy sucks. But then when you look at all the like stuff in the middle there and the stuff at the bottom, it kind of you just like, whatever. Like it is what it is. There's some moments you're gonna laugh at all those movies, but when you start to look at like the creme de la creme, I think there's some like really rich gold there.
What and something that Adam has done, and it's like I said, like both you've seen all of his movies. I've paid to see several of his bad movies, but I know that at some point he's gonna drop something that I'm just thoroughly going to enjoy, and it's going to be rewatchable, and I can put it on over and over and over again, and it's easy and it's comfortable. It's like that great pair of sweatpants. It doesn't matter if it gets a hole in it. You don't want to throw them away because you still love them.
So my honorable mentions were Waterboy, just the character of Waterboy. So many great moments.
Baba Boucher.
There's so many things. You can do it. Like there's so many characters that like you get it. Well, mama said, mama was wrong. Foosball is the devil. Like, there's so many moments, like, without having to think about that movie much. It's great. It's funny. It's stupid. It's not really well acted, but it just is what it is. Another one for me, Uncut Gems, a recent one. More serious. Sometimes it is a little bit difficult to watch, but it is Adam Sandler. Like, you believe it. It's a great performance to me. I really like Click as, like, an honorable mention. Probably one of the first movies that ever made me cry as like a teenager.
Emotional.
Like for it to not be a drama, it really hits. Like it's a comedy movie.
Yeah, the last like 15 minutes
but like
of that movie is
it just slaps. And then the ending I think is fantastic. I think it's a really good ending. Big Daddy is a great one. Obviously you gotta love Big Daddy.
I saw a hilarious meme. It was like, I completely understand what Adam Sandler
Yes, I saw this.
And it's like just him screaming at the
All
kid.
right.
And there's like, I was there yesterday, so I completely understand that now too.
And then number 6 for me, just barely falling off the honorable mention. I like this movie probably better than some of the ones on my top 5, but it just didn't make it. Is Mr. Deeds. It's just so good. It hits that likable, naive guy. It just hits. Honestly, if Winona Ryder wasn't the person, it'd probably be better.
Yeah, we talked about this with Stranger Things. That was my first big hang up in the first season. I'm not a Winona Ryder fan, but I still love this movie.
So my top 5 are Happy Gilmore, number 1. It's the iconic one to me. That's the one where Billy Madison can be a little bit stupid and played out. It's great. It's number 2 on my list.
Yeah.
But Happy Gilmore, it is so stupid and so smart and so funny. The cameos, the moment. Happy Gilmore is like the crown jewel to me of Adam Sandler performance. Billy Madison, number 2. And then I've got 3 movies that might surprise people. Number 5, I have The Wedding Singer, which if someone told me they wanted to put Mr. Deeds over The Wedding Singer, I'd be totally fine with that. I'm just trying to show some range in what I think Adam Sandler can do. Robbie in that movie is kind of interesting to me. It's also, I think, one of the first movies where like that Adam Sandler gang with like Steve Buscemi and some others, they get to participate in the movie in a really organic way where it makes sense. It's not like a weird cameo or some like goofy cheeseball performance. It fits and it actually motivates the story. So seeing them all together in a story, it works really well. 4 for me, Punch Drunk Love, Paul Thomas Anderson. It's a really interesting movie. If you haven't seen it, I would tell people just to go watch it. It's worth an interesting watch because it's a comedy that was written specifically for Adam Sandler to star in. Paul Thomas Anderson had seen Happy Gilmore and said, I want that guy to be in this movie. So he wrote like an action thriller that's meant to be a comedy. So it's written specifically for him. It's a really interesting movie, and it's sad, but it's also really, really funny. So check that out. And then one of my favorite movies of Adam Sandler is Reign Over Me. I put that at 3. It's got Don Cheadle in it, who's one of my favorite, underrated actors, and it's just a bro movie, and it's emotional. At the time that it came out, I didn't know anything about it, and then when I watched it, I was really moved by it because obviously you and I lived through 9/11. This movie has a little bit of talking about it, and there was this like time where 9/11 movies weren't touched, and then all of a sudden a few years passed by, and it's like, all right, there's this new trauma. Let's make movies all about it. And so you kind of got this intense acting about firefighters and planes and Hallmark movies, and it was just so heavy that the movie couldn't really be enjoyed for what it was. This is almost just a bro movie talking about like the trauma and some of the mental health, but it's wrapped in this really awesome consumable bite-sized package. Adam Sandler's awesome in it. The score and the soundtrack is really good. But then when it gets to the actual moment where he talks about losing his family in the movie, it gets me every time, because it's more about the people that were left behind and not the atrocity of the event. And it's cool. It makes you feel things. The interactions in the characters. You're watching that movie and you're like going through it. And I think more so than any other Adam Sandler movie, that movie to me shows that he's got really good acting chops. He can make you feel and think things that you probably didn't think about.
Yeah, he's garnered a lot of respect, particularly in the last few years since Uncut Gems. But it was always there. If you look at Reign Over Me, his dramatic timing was there all along. It's not new to him. It's just nice to finally see him get a little shine for his acting chops.
So I'm curious. We haven't gone through rankings yet. What did you rank Murder Mystery 2?
Murder Mystery 2 is 5 out of 10 minivans.
I'm surprised by that. The way you were talking about the show, I really thought you were going to be much lower than that.
No, I think if this movie was 2 hours long, it's instantly like a 2. But I think since the hour and a half really gave it a lot of points. But the van scene, I really think the van scene is one of the funnier.
Of course you love the van scene. This is the Minivan Movie Club. You got to like the van
Movie
scene.
Club, and I know I talked
That's
about
worth
how
2 points on its own.
The butt plug fight scene and Everything Everywhere All at Once was so fresh and funny. This fight scene had me laughing the whole time. The axe fight scene, the cuts of the movie, and it was very believable, the accidental kills.
There was no reason for this movie to be as entertaining as it was. I think the Netflix algorithm will throw this stuff at you even if you never asked for it. And there's a lot of movies on there that I'm like, I don't want to watch this. No, do not send this to me. But maybe that's the secret of films like this and the film's charm. Murder Mystery 2, it kind of knows its place. It's not asking you to drive to the movie theater, or it's not asking you to part with your hard-earned money to buy a ticket. It's strictly a Netflix movie. And as such, it's meant to be watched, while you're doing the dishes, while you fold the laundry, while you're counting all the pocket change and all the things that are going through your life, little chores. It's filler. But it's a time filler, and it's not a time waster. And it's a film of simple pleasures. There's a lot of Netflix movies out there that are just a waste of time. It is just filling the time and wasting it. This is a film of simple pleasures, and they are pleasures. So with the partnership between Happy Madison and Netflix moving forward, I don't think this is a great film, but I do enjoy it. And I do think it's the best Netflix and Sandler marriage, which doesn't say a whole lot. Those movies have been pretty bad.
Yes.
I think this and Hubie Halloween are probably my favorite of the Happy Madison Netflix marriage. So for me, this was a 6.5.
I thought yours would have been a little higher.
Well, I'm giving the production value. When I think of those things that we talked about earlier, story, it wasn't great. There was really no story. The pacing and the directorial vision, I think the pacing was great. I think the directorial vision was good, but it's very simple. So when you execute against simple, you don't get a lot of credit. Whereas if you're Christopher Nolan, Quentin Tarantino, someone like Jordan Peele, that you have this really grand, very unique vision and you execute, you get a lot more credit. Production value, it's okay. It's nothing great. The practical effects work, but there's some like bad CGI in this movie. It's goofy. It is what it is. There's some good moments. I think there is some timelessness, some rewatchability. If my wife's like, hey, I want to watch that movie, let's watch it. Let's laugh. Let's enjoy it. But in like the personal likability, I liked it. So story, pacing, production value are either bad or meh. And then for me, the good moments and timelessness, which are probably the most subjective categories there are, I would rather watch this than We Have a Ghost. And I ranked them both 6.5.
I would rather watch We Have a Ghost.
I think that's a stupid take. So that's going to do it for us here in the minivan. What'd you think of this show?
You inspired me to... I was trying to find where Punch Drunk Love is streaming, so I'm going to have to find it. I haven't watched it before, so... I've seen almost all of his movies. I haven't watched Hustle yet. I just could not get into Uncut Gems. I watched the first hour.
It's a tough movie to watch, but it's really good.
No, his acting
he's
is
good in it.
phenomenal.
The movie's kind of tough.
Yeah, the acting was phenomenal. I enjoyed his performance. It just wasn't, for whatever reason, I couldn't.
So that's why Uncut Gems is in my honorable mention, not on the on the bust, because I think he's good. The movie's not. Whereas Punch Drunk Love and Reign Over Me demonstrate his dramatic acting chops in much better compositions, where you're like, I can watch this movie and you can see him truly shine in very different ways. In Reign Over Me, he's the focus of the story, but really Don Cheadle's the main character. We really get to see a lot of the moments happen from his perspective, whereas in Punch Drunk Love, he's the main character. It's shot in 2002. Paul Thomas Anderson, very similar to other critically acclaimed directors. He has a very specific style. He likes to write his movies. Very famous for the movie Magnolia. And Magnolia is a trip of a movie.
That's also on my list.
It is wild. It is insane. It's got Tom Cruise and a great cast. It's a trip of a movie. I would not recommend Magnolia to everybody because there are some very explicit things in that movie. But it's an intense movie. And so when Adam Sandler heard that Paul Thomas Anderson had written a movie with Adam Sandler in mind, he went and watched Magnolia and was like, dude, you don't know who I am.
Yeah.
you didn't write that movie. You didn't write a movie about me. That's not the way it's going to work. Because Magnolia is this like very non-linear story where you're hearing 7 stories being tied together. It's a trip, but Punch Drunk Love delivers. It's really good. It's kind of a romantic comedy wrapped up in a thriller and an action. It's cool. So check it out. It's pretty good.
I'll find it somewhere.
Awesome. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up for the show today. We've gone through a little bit of what's coming up in April. Don't forget, we've got Super Mario Brothers next week. After that, we've got The Last Kingdom, 7 Kings Must Die. And then we'll conclude the month with Air on April 26th. But with that, we're going to wrap it up. We'll see you down the road.
Thanks for riding along.
Peace.